Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I am Ben, your usual host, and joining me as usual is my usual co-host. Can I say the word usual enough? Ian, how you doing, Ian?
Boo.
Oh no, it's a scary ghost.
I'm
So,
doing good, I guess, on a Monday, Whatever. It's Monday.
Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Yeah? How's things been going over at your place? Nice weather, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's been pretty nice weather. I was taking more panoramas and earlier this week. There's a place called Plum Creek by Kent here, and I went over there. I actually borrowed my dad's water shoes or whatever, and I actually walked in the creek and set up my tripod and stuff and took pictures of the beautiful rocks and bubbling water and the foliage
Water
and
shoes.
stuff. Yeah.
So like those big buoyancy shoes that are like little mini pontoons?
Well,
Swoosh,
no,
swoosh.
they're just like things that, because I didn't want to walk barefoot in the creek. I don't know if there's broken glass or something in there.
Oh, so
I didn't want to
you
get
mean
my
like
shoes wet.
waders or something?
Yeah, just something. They're just like little boots that you just slip on your feet with. It just has like a regular shoe sole or whatever on the bottom.
Okay, because for a second I thought you were like, I got my dad's, shoes for impersonating Jesus. You go just stand out in the water, swoosh. They make shoes for that, for like treading across a lake. They're like little mini buoys, kinda.
You mean like those shoes that they try to do on Mythbusters, where they try to do like an episode of like ninjas, if it was possible to run on water or whatever?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know. My dad went to this, he likes to go to Johnstown, Ohio every year when they do the Swappers Day thing, which is like a giant big swap meet. Unfortunately, when he decided to take me the previous weekend, it was raining. So, it was huge piles of mud. Like, we hadn't even gotten through the gate and already my shoes were going. Like, that's great. I was smart enough not to wear my usual everyday shoes. I just wore an older pair. I was like, I can see where this is going. And I don't know. It was kind of weird. They had like this thing where they had it had a little pond, and then they had a thing that would take either a rabbit or a squirrel or something like in a cage and drag it across the pond, and they would have the dogs swim out after it. But it was raining, and I'm just like, I don't think those dogs really like being in the water in the rain, because I wouldn't. Like, oh, it's really wet and rainy. Oh, now you're going to put me in this cold thing of water to chase the thing? Alright, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, that was the start. I don't think that was exactly the start of my long week I've had. We got a new refrigerator yesterday. I can tell you all about that fun stuff. Because we repaired the old one before, and then it started making noise, and then my mom had some cantaloupe in it, and the smell kind of slowly overtook everything in the fridge, and I'm just like, why is this in here? I need to cover it or something. I took a look at it. Oh, it's moldy with hair on it. Then we realized, oh, the fridge isn't working anymore. And it's like, well, I don't know if you've ever gone a few days without a refrigerator, Ian, but I don't recommend it.
Well, actually, my parents had to for like a month or so, because they had they had a warranty on their fridge and it was broken, but they weren't able to fix it for a while. I guess it was like a whole hassle with the company or whatever. I think they had it from Sears or whatever, and Sears is just pain in the butt with support, I guess, but they just lived out of like a crap load of coolers.
Well, we had one cooler that we bought for our road trip that we put in the garage to keep butter and a few things from going bad, but it's like you can only fit so much in a little tiny cooler, and when you have stuff in a fridge when it goes bad, it's like, well, I'm just going to dump pretty much everything here because I don't want to risk the food poisoning or salmonella or whatever I can get from it. It's like,
Yeah.
because I saw the cantaloupe and I just thought, oh, baby, that's gone bad. But then you see the milk, and when it's chunky, you decide, okay, everything in this fridge is gone. So we had to wait on that.
You
Well, I
want any
also
cottage cheese on your cereal, man?
no, that's okay. Cottage cheese. I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, how does cheese get formed? You take milk and you let it get old. Yeah, there's a certain kind of cheese where it's like you bury it, right? And there's another where it's like you take it, or there's like a kind of wine or something that you take like maybe it's a kind of cheese where you take like a dead pig and stuff and put it with the cheese that ferment.
Yeah.
So, and then there's like gourmet chefs. There's like gourmet chefs I've heard where they're like, you know, how do you tell when the meat is tenderized if you just leave it out long enough and then, you know, maggots start growing out, then you just clean the maggots off and it's tenderized enough. It's like, no. I'm sorry. I understand the idea of the 5-second roll and everything, but no.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of blue cheese or like that stinky Limburger cheese or whatever.
Well, there's a certain kind of cheese from England that's like chalky and it's got like blue vein in it and stuff. It's like an acquired taste, I suppose.
Yeah. But that's how they used to do it though. Back in the old days, is they just hang up the meat. You know, that was the refrigeration for meat, was just hanging it up and making it into beef jerky. You know.
Well, that's just a way you treat meat. You know, like that guy that they made that movie Into the Wild about. They talked when he went up to Alaska. You know, that he killed a moose, but he, instead of smoking, like, I think it was, they told him to either dry it or smoke it. Like, he smoked it, I guess, or he did something wrong with it, and it went bad and, like, you know, rotted. But, like, you know, if you have a lot of meat like that, you need to dry it and treat it properly. You know, those are things hunters know about. It's like, well, I got this animal, I gotta, you know, butcher it in a particular way before all this meat goes bad. Because what do you do when you got, like, a whole cow? It's like, well, I can't just, you know, take off a chop or a steak, you know. It's like, you gotta process all that right away. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, my week has been very busy. My mom, I don't know if I mentioned it to you before on the show, but when we went out to a restaurant and like she bit into something and it like caught one of her caps and her tooth was loose, and we got some, like, you know, she got some like denture sealant or whatever to try and keep it straight for the day or whatever, but she had to go to her dentist, and the dentist is like, well, this thing is, you know, it's like a 20-year-old cap. It's latched on with this silver thing that we don't do anymore. So you need to go to this specialist to have them remove it, and they might not be able to. It might splinter. So you got to talk to them before you can come back to me and have me recap it. So we had to go to that, and I had to play Navigator, you know, with my phone. Watch. You know, do we turn yet? No. Hold on. I'll tell you when to turn. Did we turn yet? No. And we get there like an hour before her appointment, and like, you know, they don't get to her till like 3:30, and it's like, well, that's my day.
Oh, it's man, like we're gonna navigate into this part that hasn't been updated on the map yet. He takes you into the woods, you know.
Oh man. Well, I mean, it had been like, it would do the voice navigation, but I think because I ticked off Bluetooth on my phone, it wasn't. So I had to read everything off, and every time we turned, she'd be like, okay, what's the next one? And like, some apps will tell you, and some won't. I'm like, don't worry about the next one till it comes. It'll alert us if it's like 2 feet from here, you know. I don't know, man. And then, so we drove around looking for a new fridge. We were just going to check prices, because we've been out all, like, you know, all day for that. And then we drove to a couple stores looking at their selections, and we weren't going to buy anything that day, and we stopped at a place that they're like, well, we can do price matching with others, and you can get this price, and we'll deliver it on Sunday, you know. And then, all right. Sure. Why come back out here? They got the best deal. Let's do this. But yeah, that was all leading up to going to Kyle's wedding. Which, if you're, you know, fan of the show, you've known we've had Kyle on before when he talked about the engagement. I think, right? That was like last year. Yeah. He was engaged for like 10 months or close to a year, and that was a fun time. I was looking forward to it, but I wasn't quite looking forward to all the hassle of like getting my stuff ready and getting out there. I mean, I'm sure you plan on a wedding for 10 months. I'm sure that's a lot of stress. I just had the weekend of, I gotta make sure my suit fits. Can I fit into this suit? Because I had this suit I wore to my friend Megan's wedding in like 2007. You remember Megan? She was another affiliate student with us at AIP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wore a suit that I got at like Burlington Coat Factory or something, and I had it tailored, and I wore it, and I got home and I put it in my closet, and I hadn't touched it in like 7 years. And I was like, well, time to find out what happens here. And I put it on, and it all still fit, except I couldn't button the top button of my dress shirt. And it's like, well, you want to put on a clip-on tie, you got to have the collar up. And I was like, well, shoot. I was like, well, I got to go find another dress shirt that to match this. And I went out to find one, and I was like, I don't know what size I need. And the previous one had been a 17, and the lady there measured me, and she's like, oh, you could probably even go for like a 19. I'm like, did my neck get that fat? Like, I mean, I can close the jacket, like, I have to make sure I suck it in and not be like, those guys, like, it's all about your posture, and it's like, you can be sucking it in, looking okay, or just like, letting it all hang out. So,
yeah.
So I found, I went looking for a shirt, because, like, they were different colors, or, like, some would have this huge, pronounced pocket on the front, and I was like, no, I don't want that. I want something that just looks like what I had, only a little bit bigger around the neck. And they didn't quite have anything. Then we went to another store, and they had even less. Like, we found one 18 and a half, and everything else was like 16 to 17, and there was like that, so we got that one. I could have gotten a 20 around the neck at the other place, but I was afraid, of how loose it would be. Like, I didn't want something that would choke me, but I didn't want something that was like, dangling loose. And they're all in like these plastic boxes that they're like, don't open the box. Ask an associate to help you. I was like, I don't want to have to ask somebody. I also don't want to open this and get in trouble. So you're looking for either an open box or just an open shirt sitting out to try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. I found one.
Yeah, that's always fun.
It's the weird thing about it was. Well, the weird thing about it was, it's like, all I needed was the neck. Like, the length and everything of the old shirt was fine. But in order to get this wider neck shirt, it was made for a bigger guy. So, like, the sleeves were kind of long, and the pocket, instead of sitting, up where it normally does, was down towards my gut. I'm at that, like, weird in-between fat guy size, Where it's like, some clothes I'll put them on, and like, oh, this is fitting kind of tight. And then, like, oh, hey, this is really baggy and waving in the wind, And everyone's like, well, just go up a size. It's like, no, stuff is baggy on me. Like, I can't, like, I wear a kind of pants with, like, a semi-elasticy waist, because, like, sometimes I'll put them on and I'll find a pair like that and they'll be tight and snug, and sometimes they'll fall off me. If I go up a size, they'll just fall off me. So.
Well, you've always been the type of guy that I remember from AIP, at least, that you like to wear fitting clothes, like jeans, and like you would wear those baseball type shirts or whatever.
Jerseys, like, they don't. The thing about jerseys is they don't dry too well if you're like I have a lot of shirts that I bought and they've shrunken, and people are like, oh, you got fatter. It's like, well, no, because half of them still fit exactly like they did, and half of them are like either too tight, or the bottom's gotten really short, or the sleeves are tight on me. I'm like, it's the material and how it's how you dry it, I guess. I don't know. And jerseys, like, they're always designed for that, like, 3/4 of a sleeve where you're supposed to show, like, part of your arm. And when they shrink, they just, like, bind up on you, and it's like, what is this, weird fitting long johns? I don't know. So I like to wear stuff that fits.
Yeah, you've never been into, like, the looser type clothes,
I like loose enough to move around it. I've known people in high school that, like, I knew, like, girls that wore, like, baggy jeans to where they wouldn't buy them if they couldn't stick their head in the pant leg. Yeah, it's like, I'm like, I don't need something that from a distance you would assume is a dress. That's gone too far for me. And I'm also not a person who likes to wear tight-fitting clothes, because I'm aware of my figure, Because, like, some people, if you see a guy and he's got, like, a thing that's blowing in the wind, hanging off of him, and like longer than he is. Like that's he's trying to hide something. I like to wear stuff that fits me because I'll find shirts that are like form fitting, and then you see my gut. I'm just like, look, I would wear this around the house or like as an undershirt if I had to, but I prefer something that like gives me room. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you've never been into those pants, those kangaroo jeans or whatever, where it's like they're like giant bell bottoms where you can fit like your whole waist in the pant leg, you know?
Oh man, I don't need it. There's already one of me. I don't need more people in my pants. So.
Well, that was back in the 90s, you know, those types of people that were, you know, they're usually like pot smokers or they just like to smoke, you know. It's
well, how about those pants that like
and stuff?
There's an era in the 90s where like JCPenney like stitched underwear into the tops of people's pants, so you were always sagging even if your pants were pulled all the way up. You know, that little faux waistband, which is, I don't know. I don't know, man. But I got dressed for it, and it was a warm day. It was supposed to be cooler that day because when I was trying on all my dress clothes to see what fit and what didn't, like I was sitting going, oh, it's real hot today. I don't want to try anything on. Let me check the weather thing and see what the temperature is supposed to be tomorrow. Oh, it's hotter tomorrow. I guess I'll be trying stuff on today. And like, you know, Saturday was the wedding. That was supposed to be the coolest day. It was supposed to be in like the 60s, and I don't know. When you felt the breeze, it felt like it, but when you're wearing a dress suit, that's the thing. I didn't know like what level of dressy to show up in, because like I didn't want to be like the guy to show up in a tux and everybody's like, you know, just wearing like, you know, business casual or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just the paranoia of like going to a place and like, oh, everybody's going to be dressier than me, or you know, and I'm going to be the guy who shows up in jeans, and everyone's going to go, "What's up with him? You think he's wearing a sweater? A dressy sweater that we don't notice those are jeans and sneakers?" You know, but I didn't want to be overdressed and have everyone go, "Where'd you come from, prom?" So
yeah,
I think I looked all right.
That's cool. I never got to look though. Like I know our 3D teacher from AIP. Jeff Zahner, he'd wear like jeans and like with a button-up shirt with a tie, you know.
Well, I mean,
got that look.
I get that. That's like, you know, that's business, casually professional kind of thing. When I worked at like the ticket box back at Ashland, I would, you know, wear the like I always wore like those. I had this one sweater I really liked. I called it the Jon Stewart sweater. Because every time he was on CNN or like Bill O'Reilly's show, he'd be wearing that same sweater where he'd be rolling up the sleeves going, oh, let me tell you. So I'm not wearing the suit, but I'm still kind of dressy. So, yeah, it was a fun wedding. It was very unique to Kyle. It was, like, there was a part, like, I think they presented the rings, and then they took a second to go, and now, to symbolize their tying of their lives together, they're going to interlace their running shoes. And they had this little podium set up with their shoes on it, and they're lacing them together. And it's like, you know, that works for them because they're, you know, marathon runners and stuff. Like the last time I saw them at a concert, you know, the day before they ran this big marathon down in Cincinnati. It was interesting. What was the last wedding you went to, Ian?
Well, I went to my friend Mike's wedding from AIP. I went back down to Pittsburgh for that. I told you that's where I met Jeff at, and it was pretty cool catching up with an old teacher from there, you know.
Yes.
But I was gonna ask what my friend, he had more of like a rustic type theme, which was nice. You know, it's like country rustic, I guess. What kind of theme did Kyle have for his wedding?
Well, when I saw his outfit when we were arriving, I thought he was dressed kind of like Pee Wee Herman a little bit. I was like, that kind of fits. And then it was like, it had like a blue vest, and he had some shiny shoes, but he switched to regular sneakers after that. I don't know what all he was wearing. And and his wife's outfit was like kind of like, I guess kind of like a flapper dress kind of thing a little bit. She had a little thing in her hair, and I don't know. They had some nice like colorful decorations. There's like a bright blue and some bright red flowery design things, and like for when you like they held it like the actual wedding on like the third floor of the like I think it's the art center was the area, or like just like they had on like the third floor, and when you walk in they had the whole bunch of records set up with people's names and their table numbers on them for the reception afterwards. So like you'd find your thing like, oh, I was at table 8, my brother was at table 11, you know, and they're like, I've got Rhythm is the record they grabbed for me. And it was like, oh, that's nice. It was a nice personality element of it, you know. I thought it worked nice.
Yeah, so it was more just like it didn't have like a really like specific theme. It was more of like a generic wedding type thing than.
Well, you know, those decorations like they had stuff going on like I mean. They had the wedding cake was designed for some stuff. I didn't get too good a look at it. Yeah, it was quirky enough for like their style, I guess. Like during the best man speeches and like the bridesmaid thing or whatever, they're like, may your marriage be as bright as the neon you both wear. Like, well, that worked. Like, oh, well, when the bridesmaid's speech starts off with a long time ago, and it goes further away, I'm like, Star Wars quotes. It's cute. And then his brother was the best man came out with a bag, and my brother's wife was like, oh no, he brought props. He pulled out this bag, he's like, well, I was asked to make some toast, so I brought my toaster out from my garage. Like, what is going on? And apparently the wedding had a hashtag. they were like, yeah, our wedding hashtag Rocket Wedding. So yeah, it was fun times.
That's good. Wait, did you were you busting out on the dance floor?
No, well, like, I don't know, like I think some people had issue with the DJ because like when they had the segments where like, you know, the couple's first dance and the stuff like that, and like the little speeches and stuff like that worked out fine. But then it was a lot of like cushion between that, and the DJ was kind of just playing music, so like nobody really went up to the dance floor until the DJ came up and he's like, okay, the couple wants everybody to come so they can get a photo of everyone attending. So we all gathered around for that, and then like people just started dancing because they were like, well, we're here already and it's hard to get back to our tables, so. I don't know.
DJs yell over them. Error.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if which extreme would be worse, having a DJ that's like not doing anything and just letting the music play versus like one who's up there and like, everybody on the dance floor. Yeah, man, we're just here eating our brisket. Dance, man, come on, make a crap. All right. I don't know.
What was I gonna say? I mean, did you dance at all, or did you just hang back?
I just hang back and talk to, you know, my brother and his wife. It's people at their table, and I talked to our friend Philip, who, it's funny, Philip and I went to college together, and when we went to a Green Day concert with Kyle, I introduced him to Kyle, and then since, they live in the same town now, they hang out, and he's like, you know, all my friends I hang out with now I met through Kyle, and I only met him because I knew you. And he's like, well, that's oddly convenient. It's like that old Seinfeld bit, worlds are colliding, Jerry. My one group of friends, I hang out with another group of friends, and I don't like it. I'm like, I don't know.
Did you try to... Go ahead. I was gonna ask, did you try to hit it up with some of the bridesmaids or something?
No, Philip and I were talking about that. It's like the movie Wedding Crashers kind of lies. Every wedding I go to, it's like everyone there is ultra married or ultra engaged and already in a relationship where they're going to get married or talking about weddings. And there's no like whole bunch of single ladies, who you can chat up. Although since the Wedding Crashers, they all had their elaborate stories to tell. I'm not going to show up to some stranger and go, "Oh yeah, man, I'm shipping out tomorrow. Oh, I just lost a bunch of guys, man. I'm a heart surgeon. I'm here on the weekend." I don't have some big cover story like that, so.
Yeah. Well, in general, it seems like nowadays it's like, I mean, I'm just comparing. I'm probably just from my experiences in my world, I guess, probably. But it just seems to me like back in the day there was more women that were more available. Nowadays, it seems like everybody's either married or in a really strong relationship,
Well, it's like we've talked about on the show before. The only two places where you'll find people of your age in abundance is school and the retirement home. Otherwise it's like, you better go out and mingle. Find somebody who's not 20 years older or younger than you, and if you have enough money, maybe that's okay. I don't know, man. I think I've aged into the bracket now where when I find people online and I look at their stats and they're like, "Oh, I'm a single parent of 5 kids," it's like, whoa, more power to you and everything, but like that's a hard situation to just drop into. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, could you imagine you trying to work at your animation table and you have like 3 kids pulling at your pant legs?
Well, some people, like, there are people that like you get married and you want to have kids. It's like you work that into your life, but it's like if I just found some, like even if it's not just kids, like if somebody had like, oh, I raised like 5 dogs. It's like I'm not going to be able to like just be hanging out at your house, and then oh hey. I can't, you're not going to get any work done when there's the dog peeing on everything. I don't know. I mean, lots of distractions, if it's the situation you want to be in, it can work. Stephen King, he said in his, his book, Writing a Memoir of the Craft, or On Writing a Memoir of the Craft, he says, I wrote Carrie, like we were living in a trailer with a baby, and I had to be, I was at my typewriter and having to go and change diapers and then go right back, and it's like there was barely any room for my office. He's like I worked where I could because I had to. And it's like, that's great. I just don't want to put myself into a situation. Because I know plenty of people like, they'll either get married and have a bunch of kids real quick, and like that's crazy to me. The people that get married and have kids that before the first year is out of that. It's like, how many marriages fail like in the first year? And then, on top of that, it's like, you're going to be married a long time, but you're not going to be married without kids for a long time. Enjoy it while you can. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me, it's like, I live, by myself, but I sort of really like it. It's hard for me to picture being married or whatever. I almost think that it's more unnatural to always be like sleeping in the same personal space with somebody else like 24/7. I would think it almost feels more natural just being by your own place and then going and meet that other person when you want to see them.
Well, it depends on the person. Like the people that move in together before they get married, it's like, they already plan on being around each other all the time anyway. Some people marry their best friend and that works out for them. Other people, they're like, I had a teacher in high school who, she's like, some people like look at it as kind of weird because, she and her husband would go to work together and ride in the same car and everything, and other people are like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't spend all that time around my spouse. I need my me time away. And it's like, well, depending on the factors of your marriage, some people are like, hey, you want to go do something? Let's go do something. All right, cool. And some people, it's like one person becomes the dominant personality in it, and they leave the other person around, and it's like, oh, we saw that movie and we didn't care for the writing. It's like, how convenient that you both happen to have the same opinion, and they didn't tell me anything about that.
Yeah. Me, I'm sort of like I like to think of myself as more of like a cat, you know, where I'm more of like a loner type, I guess, a lot of times.
Tomcat, huh?
When I want to, but when I want, I'll go out when I feel like wanting to be around people, you know, or be petted, you know, like a cat, I guess.
Well, I mean, there are those old married couples that have separate bedrooms, and I guess I can understand that to some degree. But in my mind, it's like, dude, if you agree that you want to, be with this person all your, for the rest of your life, it's like, why do you need a separate bedroom? I think there's some stuff to talk about with them, you know. I don't know. Personal boundaries, man. So,
Yeah.
did we want to start on the news?
Yeah. I guess so. By the way, Ben sent an invite to Doug. I mean,
If he comes in,
sort of originally. If he comes in.
If he comes in, we'd be happy to have him. If not, if he's busy or whatever, that's easily understandable too. So, however it goes.
Yeah. So I mean, whatever he wants to do, I guess. If he wants to come and join us, that's fine, I guess. Start the news. So, you know what time it is. It's time for some news. I think what we should start doing with the news is I'm gonna start my screen share for this. I don't know. I might leave the screen share open the whole episode since we go back to it anyways with the trivia. But it just might be nice to have it on when we're looking at the news articles. But
Looking out the show because I realized I didn't do that beforehand. Because every time I plug every cable in and all that stuff, my mind goes, "Oh yeah, I should just like auto tweet everything out." But what you gonna do?
right. Well, you're going in and out. I guess you must be looking stuff up or something. But I'll I mean, I'll link you guys this first news article here. This one, it's been pretty popular. I've seen on a lot of news things right now. It's about the first successful demonstration of brain-to-brain communication in humans. So yeah, I mean, I guess it seems pretty interesting. The article here, it doesn't really go into specifics as like what the experience of the people were, I guess, with it. Like if it was like you could hear their thoughts or whatever. I don't know, or if it was just like a ping or something. I don't know, but it said that the brains were able to communicate over like 5,000 miles, I think it said, and it uses an EEG machine, I guess, and they had like these helmets on with a bunch of wires on it. Yeah, here's a picture of it. So I don't know. It looks. I guess it. Oh, so it looks like they were able to play Pong with it or something, I guess. I don't know. But it seems like it's pretty interesting, I guess. I don't know. Well, now that you're back, man, what do you think?
Well, I was just tweeting out the show links to everybody because I'd realized we've been talking for a half hour and I hadn't shared the link yet, and Google Plus it'll share the Hangout and stuff on the feed or whatever, but it won't tweet to other things unless you set it up, and I'd be paranoid if I set that up that it would automatically screw up. Of course, I gotta delete a previous tweet because it misspelled chat, and of course you can't edit a tweet, you can only post a new one, so I gotta So anyway,
Yeah.
so this new story we've been talking about, it's from the, it's about brains connecting, eh? Take a look at this.
Well, it says it's the neuroscientific equivalent of instant messaging. 2 human subjects, one in India and one in France, successfully transmitted the words "hola" and "xiao" in a computer-assisted
Hola and xiao.
transmission. Yeah, xiao. Oh, hola and xiao. Duh. Whoops. But success transmission using internet-linked electro and I'm gonna try to pronounce that. It's EEG and robot-assisted image guiding, transcranial magnetic stimulation (TMS) technologies.
Well, I mean, I recall reading about when there was a coma patient or a guy who was like he had some sort of brain damage where he was comatose, and they would scan his brain, and when they would be talking about something, they'd see that the area of his brain would light up to indicate that he was thinking about being in his house. And so they were talking to him, and they're like, okay, if you want to say, yes to a thing or no, think about being in your house again. So, like, they managed to have a conversation with him to the degree of, like, they realized he wasn't in pain and that he was still able to, hear people and communicate even though he was trapped inside of his own body. So,
Yeah.
I mean, being able to recognize stimulation from a brain to something, detect that, hey, the thing's happening, that's great. It's like, now they can directly receive a specific signal from one brain to another. I don't know. It's interesting. I'd like to see, like, to what level how sophisticated you can get to be able to share brains. To, like, is there going to be a point where we can just wear the brain hat and, like, I could be thinking about a memory and you could see it? Are we going to get to that point anytime soon?
I don't think so. I mean, it looks like it's just like basic words and probably inputs, I guess,
That photo kind of looks like Christopher Walken wearing the helmet thing that Doc Brown was wearing in Back to the Future, too. Great Scott.
Yeah. It reminds me of that, but also reminds me of, you remember the first Ghostbusters where you put that thing on, that helmet on Lewis, and he had, like, they were on that computer or whatever, and they were bringing up that picture of Zool or whatever. I'm the Keymaster.
I'm the Keymaster, you the gatekeeper? Anyway.
But, I mean, what kind of implications do you think that would have, though, for the way distant future as far as, I mean, if we could just ping something to somebody else and do an instant text message to somebody else's brain, do you think...
I mean, you look at the way we are now with our cell phones and text messaging and all that stuff. I mean, it was only, 15, 20 years ago that, like, before a cell phone didn't exist, I mean, they became ubiquitous in recent times, but it's like, now any point in the world, any point in the day, if I have their contact info, I can immediately instant message somebody. I mean, when I was in college, I had a friend who was living in a different state than their parents, and they're like, rather than calling me, just go to IM and you can instantly talk to me, and it's always open because your internet's always open, so you don't have to pay to talk to me. It's like,
Yeah.
I just see this as like another thing where, like, we're removing having to have a phone, but I mean, right now you have to have a big brain helmet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
eventually
I mean,
it'll
I
be like a
think it would be
Bluetooth, I bet you. Just
Yeah.
stick it in your ear.
yeah, that would be nice. But I mean, I know they do have helmets or whatever, because this technology is like pretty new. It's not that new where, like, the device or helmet can recognize, like, the certain brain waves or whatever, like the alpha and gamma waves and beta waves, where you could control like a video game or like a helicopter or whatever. They had somebody flying with it,
Well, I mean, you can control, like they have, like, prosthetic arms that you can rig up to a person's brain if they don't have enough, like, muscle to, clinch and stuff, or, like, I can understand that. It's just a matter of, like, having something where it could, just like any other intelligent device, like when you've got that thing on your phone where it guesses what you're saying. I can just imagine you hook your brain up to something, and it's like, oh, what are you thinking about? Oh no, that's a naked lady. Well, okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, on some level, it's like stuff like that. How are you going to control it? Like, because I'm sure whenever you're in a conversation, sometimes your mind can wander, or sometimes you're thinking about different things. So it's going to be interesting to see how being focused and being able to think properly are going to work in the future.
Oh yeah. One thing I think though it would be important is that where if it's going to be like a phone where you can send a thought out to somebody, you want to make sure that's like not invasive, where it's like you could automatically where they could automatically
wire it in. Just like have like be opt in and opt out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Where they can't just start reading your thoughts, whatever you're thinking, or they can't. It would suck but it would also suck though if somebody kept bothering you. They're like, I want to talk to you. I'm in your head.
Well, it's like how computers now all come with webcams built in, and it's like, people can hack into those. It's not like my tower didn't come with a webcam, but I've got one, and I have to physically plug it in, which is kind of good because when you're just sitting around in your underwear, it's like you'd rather not have the thing looking at you.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked before about like how we heard there's people proposing at Microsoft about like just filming from your web camera and saving it as an archive forever, and it's like, no, not cool, guys. Some people don't want that.
We do what we want, and you agreed to it because you didn't read the EULA, now did you?
Somewhere you ticked the EULA, and now, well, we're gonna harvest your organs. Oh, we have a guest in the chat, Pencil Ears. How you doing? So, glad to see the chat room isn't a total loss. Alright.
Well, but yeah, it's... yeah,
actually,
well, I saw a video. Xbox, you can have privacy cover. I guess the Xbox One camera, the Kinect, now comes with a privacy cover or shade or whatever now.
A modesty filter, I assume, but well, I remember I was watching this guy who reviews like weird software and hardware for computers from the 80s and 90s, and somebody tried to make like a mind-controlled video game input system, but it doesn't really doesn't work so much on your mind. It's more like a mood ring, where like you're supposed to think a direction and turn. He's like, really, he's like, you could touch it with your finger, your tongue, or your nose, or whatever, and it's like, it's just going by like magnetic fields or something. It was kind of weird, but it was all supposed to be cool at the time.
Cool, man. Far out of sight. Oh wait, that's the 70s. Well, I guess we can move on to the next article here. This one is. Oh yeah, this one was interesting. I remember seeing the SourceFed video on this, and they were actually pretty opinionated about it. It's like, well, it's good to see a neutral news outlet here,
Oh, yeah. The whole issue with hacking into celebrity stuff and stealing nude photographs and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. I guess this was a while ago. This is like a few years ago where a lot of these pictures were hacked, and then they took them on the phone, I guess, and then I don't know how Apple works. I guess when you take a picture on the phone, it automatically puts it on the Apple Cloud or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't have an iPhone or whatever, so I don't know. But it went up to the cloud, I guess, and I mean, we talked about the cloud before. I mean, that's definitely being put out on the internet. If it's on the cloud, it's on multiple copies on servers. Yeah,
it's not quite the same as like caching your location in a map app, which people wigged out about that. Now this is being revealed. That could be a concern.
Right. Well, it's but yeah. So I guess it the pictures got hacked, and then it was like it was traded amongst a bunch of different hackers and hacking sites, and it was just a whole circle of trading, and just it's crazy, you know. It's like they traded them like baseball cards or something, I guess, you know. But
when the when the NSA was tapping people's phones, it was well known, it came out that, certain people would be listening and go, hey, there's some good phone sex going on this line, listen in, and it's like, oh, wow, it's like, if it's out there and if it's just people checking stuff out, like, people are gonna hack it and find it and share it amongst their friends, and then it comes out, and that's not cool, man.
Yeah. Well, the Okay, Ben's back, gone again. The controversy, I guess, with this is that, people are sort of doing, like, I don't know what you call it, like, what's the word for that, where it's like they're just blaming, it's like they're blaming the person and not the, like they're blaming the celebrities and not what did you say?
They're blaming the celebrities and instead of the the people there. They're blaming the victim rather than the people that are committing the crime of stealing somebody's photo. So,
right. And I guess that's why the people on the source fed, I guess, they were pretty opinionated about that, and that's what the whole controversy of this is surrounding around.
I mean, some people want to explain it away as like, oh, just don't take compromising pictures of yourselves. It's like, that's kind of not the point. Somebody else could take a picture of you, or it's your private thing. You should expect a thing in your possession not to, be stolen from people. It's like, don't go blaming somebody for if somebody breaks into your house and steals your TV, that you shouldn't be blamed for having a nice TV. It's not your fault it got stolen. So, also, I'm going to share. I shared this link in the chat room. It's to a video of a guy talking about the that mind control video game thing from the 90s. Okay. I'll put it in the blog later. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I definitely think that the people that hack these photos, they're definitely 100% to blame. But at the same time, though, I think whenever we use technology, we have to assume a certain level of responsibility, as with anything, I mean,
there was a thing about it, like, they had, like, apparently photos of that one unimpressed chick from the Olympics or something, I guess, and, like, apparently they're saying that she was a minor when that happened. It's like, at the end of the day, like, I don't know to what extent like, celeb nude photo trading, I don't know if it's like, I mean, it could just be pictures of, like, compromising, images of something. It doesn't have to be nudity. It's like whatever, people can sneak photos and have them on their own devices. That comes into the whole paparazzi argument. It's like, at the end of the day, even celebrities have a right to be private people. So,
yeah. Well, I personally, like I said, I mean, whatever I put on my computer, even if it's just on my personal computer or any device, I try to be aware of the possibility of the data getting out there, but I try to be more secure by definitely not putting anything that I think it would be sensitive on, the cloud, because I know that that's not 100% secure, and that's when it's on the cloud, it's out of my control then,
Mm-hmm. That's the cloud for you.
So,
I mean,
like I said, I think there is, to some degree, a little bit of responsibility. Just like almost anything you do in life, there's something,
Well, I mean, the Pamela Anderson tape that got stolen, that was in a locked safe and somebody stole the safe. At the end of the day, it's like, well, how much more secure, if your security guard is robbing you, how, what can you say? No amount of, oh, you should have known better, can you give that guy? It's, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, there's sometimes it just comes down to that you just made the wrong decision. I mean, you could just, we sort of control our fate at every. I look at it as we control our fate every second of our lives, you know, and even if we know that, even if we tried our best, that this could happen or that could happen. I mean, we don't control everything, but you can control to, you know, you control your fate pretty much. If that's the way I think about it, you know.
I mean, there's that Terminator line, there's no fate but what you make for yourself. But then again, it's like, you know, the guy who was born with no arms, he didn't control that. Somebody else did, but it's like, you know, he's got to deal with that reality. And, you know, just like with anything else, it's like, you know, there's stuff that you directly influence, and then there's conditions that have been set upon you. So, but anyway, I think we've moved around from the original topic of this news story.
Well, the other point that I make, the other thing that was sort of a controversy with this is the fact that people were actually clicking on the links, you know. Then they were saying, oh yeah, if you click on the links, that you're part of the problem and not the solution or whatever. It's like, well, what's the solution then? You know.
Well, I mean, I can understand the argument, because it's like, you know, hot naked celebrities, be they man or a woman, you know, if it's like, hey, did you hear there's a naked picture of that person running around? People immediately go to Google and look it up, you know. And if stuff's out there and freely available, people are going to go looking for things, you know. I mean, you know, Tumblr is full of people that get up on the soapbox and go, you're part of you know, causing her, you know, this person's victimization. It's like, you know, like when you watch the video of like a kid being bullied, and it's spread out to try and, you know, raise awareness of bullying. It's like, well, you could argue the same thing, you know. There's a lot of human nature that we need to acknowledge and accept and realize what, you know, to what level it comes through, because there's a lot of things in humanity that we look at our actions and go, well, why do we do that? And it's like, well, it's because of this you know, curiosity, or there's this thing, and, you know, you know, you can't just tell people, well, that's horrible, why would you look at that? It's like, why, you know, when you realize, why would a man look at a picture of a naked woman he's never seen before that he really wants to see naked? It's not that surprising. It's not, you know, the conditions of why it happens aren't good, and, you know, I'm sure if they understood the circumstances of where the photo came from, there's going to be a lot of, oh, I regret looking at that now. You know, I got, like, didn't put the consent out there, or this wasn't from a movie, you know, because, you know, you got sites that, like, take all the nude scenes of an actor's career and post it and online.
You're
it's
talking
like,
about,
well,
you're talking about like sites like MrSkin.com. He was on the Howard Stern show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they talked about that on the Colbert Report. He's like, you know, you go to sites like Mr. Skin, which is still free and run by ads too. I find it hard to believe with this huge database. But anyway, you know, it's like when you find out that when you find out there's a funny photo or an interesting photo that you've never seen of somebody, in the human nature, you're just wired to go, I wonder what's in that. I mean, that's why things like Faces of Death exist. It's like hey, there's this thing that you're not supposed to see. Well, I kind of want to see it now. We need to understand why we do things, and if you're going to combat it, it's like, don't just, you know, you can't just come out and say, you're a horrible person for looking at these photos. It's like, you have to explain why these photos are a thing that we shouldn't go looking at, you know? So, anyway.
Alright. Okay, moving on to the news story number 3. This is more of like another one of the things that I do sometimes, is the most or least or whatever. I just thought it was interesting. The 2014 Traveler 50 World's Smartest Cities. And I mean, I probably won't go through all 50 of them. Maybe just like the first 10 or 15 or something, you know.
Just give us like the top 5. There's no reason to go for a whole lot.
This one, fortunately, this didn't. This one says San Francisco is number 1. So, yeah, and I guess I could believe that, because I mean, there's a lot of people are pretty big into environmentalism and stuff up there. I guess, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's it's responsible for Silicon Valley. It's where the tech industry is housed, So I
Yeah.
understand that there'd be stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know if I'd really call it, it's like, is the smartest city in America? Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, I would assuming that these would be. They're probably not ranked or whatever. They're probably just generally the smartest cities, I guess. I don't know, but it said number one is San Francisco, so it's two is Paris, which is it just says peddling Paris. But I guess you've never been to a place like Paris, right?
No, I haven't been to Paris yet.
Yeah.
I'd like to go sometime. Seems like a nice city to visit. I mean, what are they ranking, like, the smartest? Like, are we talking about, like, population, or just, like, they have a thing that they're known for, or is it, like, Japan, where they've got that rail system they're putting in, which can be the fastest or whatever, or, like, what?
Well, it just says essential places, people, trends, and ideas that have turned the world's most intelligent cities into travelers' hottest tickets.
Okay, so what makes them into location places? That makes sense.
Pretty much. This one talks about Murabais in India, I guess. The thing I didn't like about this list is they gave like a whole paragraph for each of them. They didn't just say they gave a description for the title instead of the actual city, and you gotta go and hunt in the paragraph to see what the actual city is,
Well, I mean, for the Paris one, it's like they mention all the biking and Tour de France. It's like, well, that's not exactly the main reason to go. I mean, they did build up the whole Tour de France and the whole bicycling thing there intentionally to attract tourists, so makes sense.
Right. And this one just for India it just mentions Terminal 2 of Mirabai Chhatrapati Shivavai. I don't know. That's the airport. I don't even know if that's the city.
The art, it mentions the art and rivaling the Louvre, so I imagine the idea is you come in and then you go check it out. Can you hear us now, Penciliers? Apparently they're saying our audio cut out.
I can hear you and you can hear me.
Well, if it cuts out, hopefully it won't cut out on the recording later. So
yeah. Hopefully not. We'll see. I've actually been meaning to go through and listen to.
We've secretly replaced Ian with Christopher Walken. Let's see if he notices. We've secretly replaced Ian's microphone with the baby monitor. Let's see if he figures it out. Alright, and my thoughts on... I want to bow! Okay, well, it's kind of weird.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this next one, this one just mentions Rome for the fourth one. And what's weird, it's the same with this one. It's weird because Rome that's a country, isn't it? I mean...
Rome is in Italy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a... Anyway.
I'll just mention that, so...
See, this is why this is also why I didn't want you reading all 50, Ian. You're sitting here a little confused by your own article.
Oh, this one... Okay, this one mentions UNESCO, City of Crafts and Folk Art. Oh, Yeah, it says that's in Kentucky. Yeah, that's right. Which is a surprise.
Mm. Well,
Never been there either.
Mm. Well, we'll have this article in the blog for people that want to check it out, because I think they don't mean smartest as in like you're smart or anything. I think this is more like along the lines of, here's the things you should see around the world and why, and they just put out their favorite highlights. Like,
Yeah.
Paris has their bicycling thing, and they've got this art thing in India. I don't know.
Yeah, this one mentions Melbourne from Africa.
Mm.
Ooh, they have some pictures. Yay! This one mentions for number 7 Panono. And different. Doesn't mention. I don't think it mentions. Okay, moving on. Number 8 is urban farming is gaining ground. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think they're trying to mention Manhattan, which I could see Manhattan being one, I guess. I mean, people from New York generally seem like they're pretty intelligent, don't they?
Well, I don't think this has anything to do with the people in the city. I think this has to do with how the city's laid out. Just like how Austin has that keep it weird thing, and other places have like, oh, come to us for this particular thing. Like that one guy that built all those that built that mini Stonehenge out of a bunch of cars he stuck at the ground because he wanted people to come visit. So
this one's Bier from Germany, I guess. That's number 9. Number 10 is Chattanooga, Gig City for its lightning fast internet. This is from Tennessee, I guess.
Well, considering this is the Traveler 50, this is all pretty much just like, come see the sights of this town, come see the sights of this one. So.
Well, neither of us are travelers, so I mean, that's why we don't. I really, at least for me, I don't get the. I don't automatically know what the city is just from the generic title. Like, I mean, we all know like the Windy City is Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, but a lot of them, a lot of the sayings for cities, I really don't know, and I think that's what they're doing with a lot of these titles here,
Well, this is a different kind of list.
Phrase for them, or a sentence for them. So, but yeah, there's a whole lot of them here. There's 50 of them, and definitely not go through all 50 of them. But yeah,
we'll share them in the blog post.
I'll put it in the link there.
All right. Moving along, story number 3.
Oh, this one was the.
What?
We did the celebrity, that one, in the brain to brain. This is story 4. This one was interesting. I was just watching some Mythbusters, and I heard about this on the last episode. I watched it. Came out like the end of last month, and then I guess Mythbuster stars Gary, Byron, Grant, Imahara, and Corey Balashi are leaving the show.
Okay.
Pretty crazy.
Well, they've basically been the B plot of the show. Like, they'll have a lot of stuff with Adam and then they'll cut back to those 3 doing their thing, and then they'll cut back to the 2 guys again. So
yeah. Well, it says it's not on. They said it's not only the end of the episode and not only the end of the season. It is
also the end of an era. This is the very last episode of Mythbusters to feature the incredible trio of Kerry Byron, Tori Belleci, and Grant Imahara. This next season, we're going back to our origins, which is just Adam and me. I want to take a moment to thank you guys for the incredible work over the last 10 years. You've given literally your blood, sweat, and tears in the name of science, and it has been a total pleasure not to only work with you, but to call you our friends. We wish you the very best of luck, and thank you. Bye, guys.
So are they leaving because are they leaving to start their own thing, or are they leaving because they're restructuring the show?
Well, that's the thing. That's sort of the vagueness
That I was wondering about in the article. Really doesn't have any information about that. It says, I think they said something about that.
there was some, you know, a little bit of drama between everybody there, you know. But I guess that was to be expected for being together, you know, working together for 10 years. But they said that wasn't necessarily the main reason, I guess.
Well, I mean, you know, after 10 years, if you think you can move on, you know, go on ahead. I mean, plenty of people move on after their first big project goes big, and then all of a sudden they're back 10 years later going, well, guess it's time to reboot. You know, remember when all the cast of the Fast Five were out to start other projects, and then they came back like, yeah, this we need to come back together, guys. We need to. So.
Right. Well, it says while rumors of behind-the-scenes drama have always dogged the cast, Jamie revealed in an interview with Access Hollywood that that's basically what happens when you work with the same people for 10 years. We got on each other's nerves and everything all the time, but whenever that happens, we say so and we deal with it and move on. There are times that we really dislike dealing with each other, but we make it work. And the article says, and surely on set, infighting couldn't have been the only reason, if a reason at all, for hosting with the acts.
So, the show's going to carry on with just Adam and Jamie, because, I don't know, man. I remember watching those early episodes where it would be them, and then they'd go back and talk to, like, their, you know, cultural superstition lady, and then that female mechanic Jessie, and I don't know. I mean, I like them. I don't know. I think they could. I kind of like the format the show was in because they had a lot of people to balance it out. I think give it a while, they'll bring in more people. So
yeah. Well, my thing is yeah, like they weren't just like, you know, stars of the show. It was actually more manpower, and they were able to do a lot of their grunt work for them. It's like, how are they going to do a lot of the more complicated myths where they used Grant's robots and stuff that he built for him and all these crazy rigs, you know?
Well, I'm gonna say that, like, they've got a crew that aren't like stars of the show because they have people handing them stuff and coming in to do stuff. It's just they're the personalities of the show. Like, you know, how often are they gonna need a really intelligent robot? Like, I mean, that shop has been around for, like, they've been doing that show for like 10 years, and it was around for a good at least 10 something plus before that. So, you know, I figure it's not going to be too much of a trouble. I just think the layout of the show is going to change, and whoever else they end up bringing in, because I don't get me wrong, I like Adam and Jamie, but a little, you know, your host can go a long way, and
oh yeah,
they're A, and then you've got B story, because that's what made the episodes last long. Is like, you know, those three would go have their misadventures, then, you know, they'd intersplice that with the first one. So I don't know. But
the thing about,
can you share that link with me so I can add it to our blog post later?
Oh yeah, of course, yes. Or
the thing about Tori too is he did like a lot of the
stuff that nobody else would do. He did like some of the crazy stunts where they were trying to do a myth to see if like 5 like awnings or whatever you could fall through and it would break your fall or whatever. And he actually did that stunt, you know. He actually would do some of the more stupid stuff that would have been more complicated to do without a person, you know.
Well, like a lot of them, they'd be focusing on like doing the math of a thing or like building something, and he would always be the guy that like, let's see if you can shoot through the floor. Here's a shotgun. We want you to try and shoot through the floor. Bam, bam, bam. I don't think this is working, guys. Bam. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what they end up doing. I'm sure they're probably all going to go off and do their own little things here and there. So,
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm not sure when the next season is going to start, but it just ended, so it's probably not going to start for a while. Probably after probably Valentine's Day, probably.
They've got plenty of time. So, and we've got one more news story going on, right?
Yep. Yes, we do. You know your math, don't you?
I'm a big boy. I can count this many.
Yeah. This one was very lengthy, but I thought it was
Interesting. I tried to read it, and a lot of stuff was kind of confusing, but
this one is more about the NSA, and it's a little bit more about ISPs and stuff.
this one's about meet the shadowy tech brokers that deliver your data to the NSA, and it talks about
Third parties that, like the ISP, a lot of the major ISPs and stuff, they'll entrust them with the task of gathering all the data and stuff whenever there's like a court order or whatever, or a warrant, I guess. If they want like records or whatever metadata on the phone calls or whatever.
They're the in-between,
from the ISP's emails. Yeah, they're pretty much like, I guess they consider it a shadowy in-between type third parties type thing, because there's like really little that's known about them, and it's not necessarily kept secret, but it's not really out in the open either, I guess.
Well, I mean, you don't want that info just straight up out there, like, who's the guy who's collecting all your data? Well, let me go get his address and then go make sure he doesn't report this or that. It's like, I can understand why they have some things as trade secrets. So.
Right. But, yeah, I guess this article, it goes into talking about, like, FISA courts and FISA warrants, I guess, and it's pretty... It gets pretty complicated with the laws, but that's...
Well, I mean, the law is complicated, especially in the modern age, because it's like, you get into the question of, well, what does the FCC have authority to cover, and stuff like that. It's like, who do they report to for this, and, like, oh, they shouldn't be handled by these people, it should be handled by that, and it's like, you have to keep stuff square, and, having a third party that their focus is on making sure everything's clear with the government, I can understand that. Because, do you want AT&T directly giving your stuff to the government? I'd kind of like them to channel it through somebody with some lawyers and stuff.
Yeah, well, it says on a typical day, these trusted third parties can handle anything from subpoenas to search warrants and court orders demanding the transfer of a person's data to law enforcement. They are also cleared to work with classified and highly secretive FISA warrants. A single FISA order can be wide enough to force a company to turn over its entire store of customer data.
So it could either be really specific, or a lot of times it's pretty broad, I guess.
I mean, it's a branch of a business that it's the kind of thing they need to hire a specialist to cover, because they don't want to get subpoenaed from the government to handle something and not have somebody to tell them how to deal with it. So.
Yeah. Well, it says the ISP's legal resources are razor thin, according to an executive at the company who did not want to be named for the story. As a result, the company does not always directly handle government data. So, yeah. But yeah, it's like, this article is really long, and yes, it talks about hidden but not visible. hidden but not visible. They have like a bar graph, I guess. FISA warrants issued 5 years since 2001. And there was a large spike in 2007. So then it sort of went down and then it's
peaks in 2008. It looks like.
Yeah, 2000. Well, the bars are. It looks like they're a little bit offset because I think the color corresponds.
Well, I mean, if the color. Well, if the color you're supposed to match, then it's the color orange, and that's 2008, but it's on top of the 2000. Yeah. Somebody did a bad infographic.
Yep.
So.
Here's a picture that says, when the feds come knocking the sale of a Utah ISP, a secretive court order in a little black box.
Well, that's a related story or something.
Yeah, that's awesome. But there's lots of figures here. If you can stand to go through this whole encyclopedia of an article here, you can do that at your own discretion, you know.
Well, it's just an interesting thing to look into.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing if you're involving third parties like that. I think it is kind of a good thing that we at least know who the players are, and you know what their vested interests are, and how connected they are to the companies or the government. Because you don't want like the only company doing this to be a guy with a vendetta against so and so, or to be easily influenced by. So.
Yeah. Well, one thing is this paragraph mentions it's interesting. It says Thomas said trusted third parties are not a regulated industry and that there is no external party reviewing such work. He said that the company does not undergo any audits that would examine how they do these jobs.
And one of the other paragraphs I did notice when trying to skim through this is I noticed that they said that if an ISP has been ISPs that have declined or rejected the warrant or whatever, but the third party has to, if they reject that, then the third party has to they have to be neutral then on the thing, I guess. And they have to let the third party know that, hey, don't give them that stuff.
Well, you have to have limits of what you share and what you don't share.
Yeah, but I guess one of the problems is since it is so secretive that could not always be the case that they listen to the ISP, I guess. So it's just another. It's another thing that. Another thing to put your nose in as far as well, I forget that saying where it's just something else, another bad mark on the whole issues with privacy and freedoms and stuff,
Well, what you gonna do?
I guess, man. Yeah, that's it for the news. Oh,
actually, there was another interesting thing I did actually have something to talk about here. I was
okay.
Like, well, I don't have anything to talk about.
All right then. What could it be, Ian?
Actually, this one was about. I have to go back on. It was on CG Talk. It was about a lot of people from Disney were. They were trying to get together to try to make 2D come back alive or whatever.
It's about that steampunk movie that was going for funding.
I think so. This one talks about Disney veterans gathered to save 2D animation from extinction with Hullabaloo. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Since obviously you seem to know a lot about it.
I've seen it mentioned around, and I mean, it's a 2D steampunk film, and I'm kind of take it or leave it with steampunk at this point personally. But you know, 2D films and stuff like that, I'm all in favor of, you know, productions getting people to make 2D films, because, you know, I've seen animators on, you know, on my Twitter and other places, you know, are kind of like, well, you know, it's a matter of the industry and the studios thinking 2D's passe now that we've got 3D, and then there's also the audiences now that people expect everything to be in 3D. It's like, well, why bother with 2D? And it's like, well, you know, there was a time when stop motion was passe, and yet you still have studios, you know, doing things like Frankenweenie and the Blocks Trolls and Paranorman. You know, I think, you know, 2D animation, I don't think it's going to die off. I think, you know, right now it's at a lean time because, you know, when a thing's kind of passe for studios, you know, studios are like, we need to go where the people want, you know, it's like superheroes became a thing. Now everybody's doing a superhero movie, and this and that become a thing, and everybody's doing a movie like that. All we need is one studio to come out with a 2D film that does gangbusters, and suddenly everybody's going to want to do it again. Because, I mean, you know, 2D animation was kind of relegated to TV until there was, like, I mean, even in the 80s and 90s, it had a boom, and, you know, it was a big TV renovation, you know? It's like you had, you know, Tiny Toon Adventures, Animaniacs, the whole Disney afternoon with all their shows. You had a big sea of 2D animated films, and now it's like, well, everything's got a, you know, computer generated, and, you know, it's mocap, and there's all this, and it's like, well, you know, if a 2D film does gangbusters, some studio will put the money into making a 2D film again. So
yeah, what do you think 2D needs saving, quote unquote, I guess?
I don't think it needs saving. I just think, you know, we need to appreciate it again a little bit. Because, like, right now, you got studios like, you know, Bill Plimpton, he's doing short films. You get a lot of talented YouTube animators and people on Newgrounds and stuff like that are doing these great 2D films. And there's a lot of good 2D animation on TV right now. You get Archer, you've got Adventure Time, you got Steven Universe, you had Rick and Morty. You know, there's a lot of good animation out there. And then there's also some really stilted stuff. But, you know, it's out there. It's just it's not competing. People don't think oh, that's just for kids. Like, that's drawings. That's not something that looks realistic. It's like I don't know.
Well, I don't know. For me, the thing I think, you know, you need to do if you're doing 2D, I think, to attract, like, a lot of the kids and stuff, because, you know, you're used to, like, everything going on in the screen, like with Transformers and all these other CG elements in movies, you know, and just CG in general. I think if you're doing 2D movies, you need to make sure you have a lot going on in the screen, and a lot of general eye candy and stuff. I mean, even if it's, you know, a cell shaded, that's fine. But if you have, like, detail in certain characters and especially, like, the backgrounds, and you could always do, like, a lot of lighting effects, like lens flares and stuff too, you know, like a lot of Ghost in the Shell type anime stuff is always interesting too, you know.
Well, I mean, I've heard, like, people, really, you know, I've heard people do reviews of movies like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They're like, you know, you think, oh, you're going to get tired of all the food jokes, but the stuff in the back, you know, the background jokes and stuff just keeps going where it keeps it going. But you gotta worry about, like, sometimes they'll try and do stuff, and it's like the movie is just jiggling keys at you. Like, did you ever see that 90s Felix the Cat movie? And they have that movie. So, yeah. That movie, Felix is talking at you the entire time, and he's saying things that aren't even related to the screen. It's just, here's a joke. Oh boy, here's another joke. Here, I'm trying to be funny. I'm trying to be pay attention to me, kids. Pay attention. Jiggle keys, and stuff like that, where it doesn't stop and let you, you know, sink in what's going on. Yeah, that could be a problem, and you run into that today with films too, where it's like some stuff just looks so obvious. Like, hey, guess what? I'm the comical sidekick. It's like, no, you're not. Jar Jar Binks is a brilliant example. They're like, oh, he's the comic relief. No, that's not. Don't do that. Stop.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I mean, that is definitely true. But I mean, with every CG, 2D, or movies in general, I mean, the most important thing is definitely the storyline. But my point was just that it has to be. It's nice to have, whether it's 3D or 2D, as long as it's pleasing to the eye. It's easy on the eyes, I guess.
Well, I mean, I've seen 3D, CG films that looked ugly. It's like you have to have an artistic eye when you make a film. Be it a traditionally 2D animated film, or it could be stop motion. It could be like you could say, oh, look at that, it moves great, but it looks ugly. Like, I mean, the Transformers movies. It's like you look at those. Those have had some critiques from plenty of people about how the Transformers just look like piles of junk spinning around and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta admit, they do look kind of cool, but by the same token, it's like, I don't know what that is. Trash heap? Oh no, that's Optimus. Okay.
Well, I think I did see some people, like in the CG community, say that a lot of the Transformers stuff were, like, it was just, like, random things with the Transformers put together. It wasn't like I'm sure the rigs were sort of complicated, but I think that they when they were modeling and stuff, they weren't going to spend the money to try to see if the models fit together when it transforms like this, where they actually physically transformed like you would have to do for like a toy or whatever. You actually have to go there and figure out how are these pieces going to fit back together,
Well, I mean, that's the difference between, the 80s cartoon Transformers, that they were very blocky and very obviously could have moved a few things and become a car, and now it's a robot. Now it's like, here's all these little interchanging things spinning in 3D, and now all of a sudden they're, it's a whatever. Because, I mean, in that movie, anything could be touched by the spark or whatever, and like, a cell phone could become alive, and then it could transform into like a Hot Wheels car and change, all these changing masses and stuff, which doesn't make sense when you sit and think about it, but in the context of like 30 frames a second flying at you.
Yeah.
But then again, a lot of that movie doesn't make a lot of sense if you sit and think about it too long.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even like if you were to try to model it accurately to where all the pieces fit together and they don't go inside of each other and stuff with the models. Just doing like a pocket knife or a Swiss Army knife, that can be just complicated by itself, I
don't know, man. So, what are your thoughts on this film's funding and all that jazz, Ian?
Well, I don't know. I was meaning to do this for the main article, but I sort of put it away I didn't even put it in my links for some reason. I thought that I did, but I didn't look at it too closely. But
yeah, drop it in my links, good. And I'll mention on the blog for people that want to check out all the specifics too.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing whenever a film that looks well done gets funded. So, this looks like it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm just a little tired of steampunk at this point because. I mean, if it's well done, it might be different. It's just I'm a little tired of like, they've done a Disney steampunkified characters thing, and it's like, okay, I don't know. I mean, the steampunk is one of those genres I really don't know any like official like films or stories about it. I always see all the fan art and steampunking versions of stuff, like, oh, here's R2-D2, but he's powered by steam, and here's C-3PO, and he's powered by steam, and okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, as far as the budget goes, though, how much do you think, like, budgets of 2D movies in general, do you think they've gone up a lot since the 60s or 70s or 80s?
Well,
I mean,
budgets in film in general have gone up. Well, film in general has gone up. Well, that's a very small budget. Even like a Kevin Smith film will run you $4 to $5 million. So
Oh yeah.
an anime film that it's a matter of how they're branching it out. Like obviously they're I mean. I've seen the Kickstarter videos and they show guys drawing at tables and it's like for that amount of money you're not gonna get people drawing on paper, and I'm like I mean granted, how are they funding it? It's like this is a an Indiegogo or Kickstarter page, but are they doing a number of these, or is this, or are they planning on only doing the one? Because I've seen films. I mean the stripped documentary about comic strips. They did 2 different passes of Kickstarter for that. They're like we need a budget for this and that and editing, and then I think they did a second one for sound mixing and finalizing. So I just I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I think
so.
I think with computers and everything have cut down the price of a lot of stuff. Like you don't have to use paper, and you can draw it digitally on a tablet, and you don't have to get a camera. You can do everything right in the animation software and test it real quick. And especially now, since you can send stuff over the internet to assistants or parse stuff out to other people, and they don't have to all be there. It's easier to get things done, but still, animation's expensive. Or filmmaking in general is expensive. It's just how much time are you gonna, like that old saying, you can get it fast, cheap, and good, but you can only pick 2 of the 3.
You can only have 2 of them.
Yeah.
So
like,
if you want something cheap, it's not going to be fast or good.
It'll be fast. Well, it can only be one. It can only be one of the 3. Like that Richard Williams film, The Thief and the Cobbler, where he spent like 30 years working on it because he was trying to make it perfect, and his funding, his time and his money ran out right when he had to have the film done, and he was still like 10 minutes short. And they're like, "Well, we're just going to take it and we're going to patch up the seams and release it the way we want it." And he's like, "Well, it's like that's what you can do, Or like, Bill Plimpton does films, and he does them on a shoestring budget with a small staff, and he just, he's the animator. They'll color it, they'll process his stuff, but he's like the grunt work. So
yeah, you're right though. Like if you want something cheap, you have to either choose good, or it'll
fast.
probably be either good or fast. So if you want it cheap and good, it's not going to be fast.
Nope.
If you want it cheap and fast, it's definitely not going to be good then.
Oh, there's plenty of movies like that. So
yeah. Well, generally speaking, though, I mean, not Bill Plimpton. From what I've seen, I mean, he's pretty crazy as far as what he can do. But I mean, from a general, like generic animator 1 or generic animator 2, what's humanly feasible to expect a person to be able to animate within like a year? Can they do like Can they do like a half an hour or like 10 or 15 minutes animating? I mean, that's like what, 15 frames a second?
Well, I mean, animators in the old days, they would have to they would usually think in feet, because that's how the film was measured, and they'd have to think, okay, I have to get so many feet from my quota for for the week, and most animators would churn out, they all churn out relatively the same level. Guys like, Bill Plimpton is the guy in animation. They're like, he gets an asterisk. They're like you can't have one guy do an animated film except Bill Plimpton. One guy can't make an animated short, 1 or 2 animated shorts a year except Bill Plimpton. But of course he animates like traditionally on 4s, which is like, it may look a little shaky, but it's like it's a stylistic thing. It's and it works for him, and his characters are very inventive. It's like some animators like if you ever look into the director and animator Robert McKimson from Warner Brothers, he had I believe from the story I heard in an interview, he had a car accident, and it hit him on the head, and when he woke up, he was able to visualize stuff a lot cleaner. So like when he was animating, he'd do things. He would do like 4 times as much animation as anybody else, just because he could see the stuff and just draw it clean without even doing construction lines. And he would just, his output was just this huge, insane number. It's, I don't know, man. It's.
Well, for you, how, like, if you had to do like 30 seconds, because I know it's hard to gauge too, because some animators just do keys and some do the in-betweens. But for you, since you're doing everything by yourself, how long would it take you if you had to do 30 seconds straight of the animation requires all keys and in-betweens, and you can't like duplicate it or reuse anything?
You're gonna duplicate things, because most animators are not doing an entire film on ones, because that's like saying, hey, why don't you do everything for forever? Oh, and hey, it's all these thousands of drawings. Whenever they talk about like a minute-long film requires like 1,000 frames or something like this, it's like most of the time that's kind of stretching it. You're drawing like every other frame, because there's issues to say with stuff on ones, that sometimes it can look really fluid, but it can also look very floaty. And your characters can kind of, they either don't look like they're hitting the ground, or the timing just doesn't look right. So 2s are usually a standard. And, especially today when you get the puppet, you can do puppet stuff too, where you draw your thing and then it's a matter of moving it. Because, if you just have a thing that slides across an angle, you can draw it once and then move it, and that'll look a lot more solid and perfect than what you would ever do. But then the whole matter of, oh, that's a stylistic thing, that you want it to look hand-drawn between each frame, so you need to figure out what level of fiddling with it. There's some people that have drawn their character like the one time, and then they go to animate it, and it's like they'll spend all their time animating, and they just move and shuffle it around, and they go through a really complicated rig so that they never have to redraw anything. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, for those of us that don't know what drawing on, when you say drawing on 2s or 4s, that's just like how many frames you skip from the standard 30 or 24 frames
of the
second, right?
Of the 24 to 30 frames a second that film takes, you usually hold a drawing or a frame for 2. You hold 2 frames for every second in motion for a lot of movements. Like for a walk cycle, the character you'll have 2 poses with their legs extended, and 2 poses to the next frame, and it just makes the drawing read a lot clearer. Because if you literally draw every frame on ones, it can look very quick, and things can be confusing, because they're not rooted in holding your eye for that fraction of a second. So, and it's also just a lot faster for an animator to be able to draw something on ones and then time it out. Like, oh, well, this needs to be twice as long. I'll just hold these frames twice as long in the thing, and there we go. So,
well, if I were to ask you to do a 2D commercial, what would be the? Hold on. You explain how long it would take you to do a commercial. I gotta take a phone call. 30-second commercial. If somebody came to you and asked you to do a commercial, what would that take?
Well, it would come down to a matter of what they were expecting me to do. If it was 30 seconds of just me straight up animating that, if I had to be responsible for everything, if I had to do, if they had it storyboarded, because usually if they're coming to an animator, they already have an idea. Because a lot of animators in the U.S. anymore, they're doing the storyboards and some keying and stuff like that. So if I had to animate a commercial, it'd probably come to me in a storyboard. And then I would probably draw out the scene and stuff like that. Then you have another issue of, what about backgrounds? Are those being provided for me, or am I expected to do that too? So that it's a matter of how much work. If I was an independent animator who wanted to be doing the animation for this commercial, but I also needed to have a background guy who could draw backgrounds for me, thereby increasing my output. Like, maybe I'm just not the best background person, or maybe it's a simple background and all they need is like a gradient. It's a matter of what they're coming to. Like I'm saying too many times, aren't I? Things like there I go again. Harry Partridge did a Riff Tracks commercial. He did the intro for the Riff Tracks theater segment, or it was basically a giant commercial for them. Selling what they do and what their shorts are, and I watched, he posted his storyboard that he did, and I look at that, and it's like, man, he in between that, and the characters are pretty much fully animated. There's like one scene where a thing just moves on, like, as a strip, but everything else is like moving, dynamic, and like dude, that's a lot to put into a storyboard. And the level of work and amount of time he puts into that. And, I mean, he posted on Twitter not too long ago that he spent like 14 hours animating a guy throwing a remote control. And he's like, I could understand if it was like some 9 old man stuff or something, 9 old men things, but it's like, it's just in my usual style of a guy throwing a remote, and, that's what you gotta do sometimes. If you really want that shot to look right, you'll spend all that time on it, but you could realize you can only do so many shots like that in a day. So, if it were me trying to work on a commercial, I don't know. Because I haven't animated commercials. I'm working on animating an intro for a Let's Play I'm going to try to be doing, and I really want to get that done. And I'm going to be diving back into working on a short film I've been working on. I'm going to be doing posting on my website for this thing, work in progress Wednesdays is what I'm going to be calling it, where I'll just show people, here's some screenshots of what I've been doing, and I'm going to be doing some video demos of here's the rigs I've been fiddling with and what I'm trying to do with them. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well,
how about you? If they came to you and said we want a computer generated commercial, Ian, and you got 30 seconds, how long would that take you to put together?
I don't know. That would take a while. Well, I mean, it would.
It depends on the assets they give you, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, if they even give me assets,
Well, like if they came to you and just said, "Hey, Ian, do whatever," that's different than we have this storyboarded thing, and here's and we need you to make it look like this. If they whatever they come to you with, you need to get an agreement with them before you dive into a project. Because if somebody just comes to you and says, "Hey, do whatever," well, that can be awesome, and it can also be awesomely terrifying. Because you've had that and when you've been in college, and the professor would say, "Okay, everybody, your final project is due, whatever," and you're just like, "Well, you didn't. The entire rest of the course, you've given me assignments. I don't know what to do." I need to figure it out on top of actually doing it. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I hate though that when people are like, "Oh yeah, if you can't quote a budget or time right away, then you're not really professional,"
Yeah, well, that's
like
just
if
stupid.
you say too low of a price, that makes you look like you're not professional. If your price is too low,
Well, I mean, everybody has a first client, and everybody, you can walk up to anybody and say, "I want $1 million to do this," and they're totally free to go, "Nope, sorry, out of our budget." So you don't want to just price something insanely high, but you also don't want to tell them you can deliver the moon for $5 and then be like, "Well, I gotta basically not live for the rest of the month till I make this happen," and it totally wasn't worth it. So.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. I mean, for a commercial, since I don't have really much experience with commercials myself, I did a couple for AIPs. So, I mean, I would probably just quote the same time that we had for a whole quarter, like 2 months or something like that,
Well, I mean, it all depends on what they expect you. Would you be expected to model the characters, rig the characters, handle the rendering, handle the backgrounds? It's like, when they do stuff like that, they have like teams of people doing things. Like there's a guy doing the backgrounds, there's a guy rigging the characters, and then you have the animators. It's like there's a lot of people in the field out there, Ian. So,
well, I mean, for me, for 3D, what's crazy too is you got to quote a time. You got to factor in the time it takes for rendering the actual animation, which I know you don't really have to do with 2D, but although you do have to probably allocate some time to, if you're doing like 1080p or 4K or whatever.
Well, it depends on the effects and how you're sending it out too, because it's like, with Toon Boom, you can put all kinds of filters on it. You can export to different sizes. So if you want it to be 1080 or versus like 4K or something crazy, you have to figure that stuff out. And then just like with anything, when you got post processing, it's like you might render the thing out, and then you've got to add an effect in After Effects, or you have to add it in something else, you know, or trim it down, or touch it up, you know. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right.
Oh yeah, man.
So we've been going on for a while. Did we want to jump into trivia?
Yeah, I guess we should. It doesn't look like Doug's probably gonna show up. I mean, if he wants to, if he comes in, he could.
Next time I talk to him, I'll invite him back on the show. Hopefully he's doing better. He said he wasn't feeling so hot last time, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah. My dad's gonna drop off some stuff for me, maybe in about 20 minutes. So maybe we could get this done.
All right. Let's see who can win the trivia in 20 minutes. Answer: it's gonna be me.
Oh yeah.
Trivia of the end. Ben's gonna win. Oh yeah.
Some of these I'm gonna have to. Don't talk during the music. Don't talk.
You're the one talking. Ian.
Someone-
I don't know. I don't know what jive you're talking, Turkey.
I'm talking. Yeah, that's why I'm telling myself to shut up. Shut up, Ian.
Yeah, that's
Shut
right, me.
up.
Shut up. Shut up. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know why I'm here. You're not my real dad.
No, I'm gonna have to. I was trying to say some of these I'm gonna have to start putting in new trivia in here because we're getting low on them. You know, I projected it was gonna take like 6 months to totally run out of every single trivia question on here.
Well, Ian, that's why we also don't need to be doing a whole stack of trivia questions. Yeah. Alright. So, what are we doing this week?
Like I said, let me check. I think the movies are done. Yeah, the movie is done. Nothing with
Alright.
the movies. We could go back to technology, or did you want to see about that? You want to go back to an animation one here?
Well, the technology ones are a lot of... It's either something we don't know about, or Bill Gates, or Steve Jobs again. So...
Well, this one was sort of an animation theme a little bit. I mean, I guess we could do it. I guess.
Yeah, it's just, I'm sure there's going to be a few where you and I are both looking going, that's crap. That's not the right answer. That's ambiguous. Okay. So, question 1. Who is known as Pixar's Good Luck Charm? Owen Wilson, Tom Hanks, John Ratzenberger, Billy Crystal. And this is, you going first this week, Ian?
Okay, sure. I'll
Suffer for this one, I guess.
I remember this question, but I don't know. I don't know. We might have had a variation on it a long time ago. Go ahead. You go first.
Well, actually, let's go to this one just in case.
Just in case.
You forget that question. Read this question first.
Alright. Which of the following was not a part of the circus bugs that Flick brought back in the colony in A Bug's Life? Rosa, Roll, Gypsy, Dim.
I don't know, so I'm gonna go with the generic answer and just say Gypsy.
Well,
they're in circuses.
Yeah, I didn't see A Bug's Life. I've seen parts of it. I've been meaning to. I'm going to go with A, Rosa. It's probably wrong. Well,
Rosa.
yeah, I'm going to go with Rosa. It's probably Roll or something, but go ahead.
Oh, you got it.
Oh, yeah!
No.
What full-length animated feature was released on Christmas Day? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Dumbo, The Sword and the Stone. This is me going first.
Yes, it is, sir.
Christmas Day. I want to say The Sword and the Stone. I suck at picking release dates, so
I'm gonna go with Pinocchio.
Let's see what.
all right, let's find out what it was.
Oh, you got it again.
Yeah, that's right. I'm good. All right. Who was the first organic character Pixar created? Lumpy the Clown, Jerry the Old Man, Billy the Baby, Flick the Ant.
I guess I'll just say Flick the Ant.
Organic. I see. I remember this because I watched a documentary where they're talking about the development of their render system. So I'm going to say Lumpy the Clown. It could be Jerry the Old Man, but I'm going to say Lumpy the Clown. They named him Lumpy because they could make him lumpy, I think. So let's see what the answer is, Ian.
Oh, damn, man. You got it again.
Oh yeah, I'm doing good.
It was.
I chose Flick the Ant because that was like the only one I recognized.
I didn't recognize any of them, so. Alright. Pixar created a range of commercials prior to making feature films. For which product did Pixar make its first commercial? Lifesaver Holes, Trident, Tropicana Orange Juice, California Lottery. Oh, Pencil Ears is asking what do they mean by organic? I believe they mean organic by the character doesn't look, symmetrical and like made up of like primitives where it's like, oh, they're, a very obvious sphere and hey, now it's a set of eyes. The character could actually be lumpy and I don't know.
Right.
Could look more natural and realistic as opposed to obviously generated by machines. So now, let's see, Pixar created commercials. Which was the first one? I saw this on the documentary too. I know they did a Lifesavers Holes commercial and Tropicana because they did both of them just jumping through stuff. Tough question. Lifesavers Holes versus Tropicana. Which one did they do first? I'm going to say Tropicana, because it's been around longer, so they might have gotten that before Lifesavers Holes.
Okay,
What are you saying, Ian?
I'm going to go against the grain again, and I'm going to say Trident.
Maybe it was Trident. Might have been a little strip.
Oh, man. I just need to go with the pack, man.
You mean, what pack? There's me. You just need to follow me. Be like Ben. Perfect advice.
All the crap.
Alright. In the Tigger movie, Tigger believes that his family will visit him. What causes him to believe this so strongly? A. Tigger finds an old photo that says that Tiggers get together on the last day of summer. Tigger has a dream that his relatives turn up on his birthday. Owl rewrites a fake letter and pretends it is Tigger's family. Roo believes that Tigger's family must be searching for him and soon will find him. Alright, Ian, what do you think? Ian?
I'm going to go with D, I guess.
I don't know if I saw this one, but I'm going to say C because that sounds like something that would happen in a movie where somebody would write a letter and then it's like, oh, hey, what's going to happen?
Okay. What it was.
Oh, man, you're pretty good, man. These.
This is how I got through school, kids. Making stuff up and guessing well. Alright. The quote at the beginning of Lady and the Tramp is from whom? Mark Twain, George Orwell, Walt Disney, Joss Billings. Oh boy. And this is me going first, right? Let's see. The quote of Lady and the Tramp, huh? I'm gonna go with Mark Twain. I don't remember the quote at it, so.
just go with. I'm gonna go with B. George Orwell.
Okay.
Try to lose again, I guess. We were both wrong. I was thinking about that one too.
I can't remember what the quote is, and I can't remember who Josh Billings is, so I'm
Josh
doomed either way.
Billings.
Which is the odd movie out in this collection? One of these jungle movies holds a very special place amid all the Disney features. It is the only one that Walt Disney contributed the most to. Jungle Book, Tarzan, The Jungle Book 2, Tarzan and Jane. And this will be Ian's Ian's going first, folks. Which one
Yep. I'm not
what
gonna
you-
go for it.
which one are you gonna go for there, Ian?
I'd just say Jungle Book.
Well, I would say Jungle Book because it's the one they made when he was alive. So, let's find out.
Yeah. At least I get.
I want to be like you, walk like you. You know they're making a live-action Jungle Book movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Interesting.
yeah, and I think the guy who directed Iron Man's supposed to direct it. I'm not sure of all the specifics though. Okay.
Who do you think would win in a fight? The Jungle Book, Tarzan, or George from the Jungle?
Well, George of the Jungle is a parody of Tarzan. Now, if you're talking
Okay.
about who would win in a fight, Tarzan versus Mowgli of the human cub versus a grown Tarzan. Probably Tarzan because it depends on whose jungle it is because Tarzan's jungle, he was the lord of that jungle, but Mowgli, he spoke to all the animals in his jungle, but it seemed like a lot of the animals there wanted to kill him, so I'd probably say Tarzan. So, what was the name of John Lasseter's first 3D short? Tin Toy, The Adventures of Andre and Wally B, Luxo Jr., Knick Knack. Alright. John Lasseter's first 3D short. I'm going to say The Adventures of Andrew and Wally B.
Yeah, I think I'll go with that one. That one sounds good. I don't know. It's the longest.
See what it was.
Yeah.
Was
All right. It's the true or false.
All 4 people in this quiz have graduated from college. Ian? There's... I don't know what that question's asking.
I don't know what that question is asking either. After
Well,
what? I don't know.
Let's see who gets it right, true or false. I'll just say
Okay.
false.
I'm gonna say true. It's,
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think that one matters, because I couldn't exactly
No,
tell what it was asking.
It's not, but you're still gonna kick my butt anyways.
Yeah, well, I'll give you the pity points, Ian. Matt Groening is part of an eclectic rock band called Rock Bottom Remainers, which 2 famous authors are also part of this band. Stephen King and Mitch Albom, Orson Scott Card and Tom Clancy, Dan Brown and John Grisham, Stephanie Meyer and Robert Ludlum. I'm gonna go with A.
I'm gonna go with A as well, sir.
It was A.
Yes.
Stephen King and Mitch Albom. Which I knew that because Stephen King mentions the band in his, in that On Writing, which is, again, is a really good book. I really recommend people picking up a copy. Alright. Which of the following movies is set in Hawaii? The Little Mermaid, Lilo and Stitch, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, The Black Cauldron.
Well, I would say it was Lilo and Stitch.
Well, yeah, because that's the answer. Lilo and Stitch. Alright. In high school, Matt Groening was the student body president who lost this title when he did what? Placed a listening device in the principal's office, redacted the school's copy of the Bible, tried to amend the school constitution to make himself dictator for life, stole all the copies of that year's SAT and burned them outside the school. Okay. I seem to remember this. What did he do? I'm gonna say C. It sounds like something he'd do. Amend the school's constitution. What do you say, Ian?
I think I'll say
A.
You're gonna say he placed a listening device in the principal's office? Could be. I mean, I don't remember the details of this story, so... And the answer is... Tried to amend the school constitution to make himself dictator for life.
You know him pretty well.
I honestly don't know that. I'm just going, I kind of heard that one time. I'm assuming it's going to be this. Huh. Wow. I mean, to be honest, if he stole the SATs and burned them, that'd be something that they could expel him for rather than losing the student body president thing.
Oh, yeah.
So...
I was thinking that one was too hard. Great.
Yeah. Seth MacFarlane narrowly escaped death one fateful morning when he did what? Missed his bus, which ended up swerving off a steep embankment, got trapped inside a burning building and had to jump out a window, tripped in his tool shed and was nearly impaled by gardening shears, or D, missed his plane, which was one of the four used in the attacks of September 11th. And this is me. This is you or me. Which one is going first? I keep forgetting because I'm reading too much.
Well, I think I went second after that, the last one.
So this is
You
yours,
had
huh?
said that. Yeah. I guess I'll just go with the... I would consider this more of a generic answer because this is like... That's what a lot of people have... You know, they've said that they've done it. It's happened to them before, so I'm gonna go with D. You know.
You're gonna say he missed his plane?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he.
9/11.
Yeah, because that's something he mentioned on the on Dinner with Five, where he said he was hungover and he missed his plane, and it was one of the planes that would hit the tower. So, and the correct answer is.
Yep, missed his plane.
All right. Alright.
Okay.
How many horses pulled the wedding carriage in Cinderella? 5, 7, 6, or 4? And this is my answer, huh?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna say 6.
I think that's a bit much, so I'm gonna go with 4.
Well, could be. The answer is 5.
Either it was 5.
Ah.
Weird number.
Yep. Matt Groening was the original creator of a comic strip originally entitled What? My Dad is an Alien, Dilbert, Robot Man, Life in Hell. What do you think it was, Ian?
Well,
I'm gonna say Robot Man, I guess.
Well, the answer is Life in Hell, because that was the one with the rabbits, and then that's where Bongo, the rabbit with one ear, came from. So
That one.
yeah, you were
Life
right.
in
Who did
Hell.
Who did Dilbert? That was
That was a Scott Adams.
yeah.
get a 12.
You're double my score here, so.
Oh, yeah. Seth MacFarlane had a prominent role as a voice actor in which fantasy action film? The Scorpion King, Underworld, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army.
Oh, hold on.
What's going on?
Accidentally.
You're scrolling. You're confusing me. Ah.
Sorry.
Well, alright. The Scorpion King, Underworld, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, X-Men, The Last Stand. Interesting. I'm gonna go with X-Men: The Last Stand. Wait. Fantasy action.
I'm gonna
fantasy
go with
action. Maybe he would. Well. X-Men's not really fantasy action, is it?
Nah, I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, I was just going to go with that one because that was the newest one out of the bunch.
Actually, the newest one I thought was Days of Future Past.
Well, I'm saying of that list.
Oh, yeah.
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 Well, okay, I'll go with Hellboy 2. I'm doing a rare changing. I'm gonna do a rare changing of my answer and go with Hellboy 2.
Well, because I think you mentioned something about Hellboy too.
Well,
If that was he either helped design some things in there or he did the acting, I'm not sure.
well, I mean, it says he's a voice actor, so let's find out what the answer is.
Yeah,
Hellboy 2. Well, what did he do? I mean, I know he was an actor in the Star Trek that Enterprise show. He was on that.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll have to go to Google. Alright.
Yeah.
Which of the four animation gods has a bachelor's degree in mathematics? Trey Parker, Matt Groening, Seth MacFarlane, Matt Stone. This will be Ian first.
I know you know this one too. I just don't know. I'm gonna say Trey Parker.
Well, I think it might be Matt Groening. I'm not sure because I think Seth MacFarlane had a student film, so I think he was in school for that. But I'm not sure about the other guys, so I'm gonna go with Matt Groening.
Okay.
Oh, Matt Stone. Well, part of the Parker Stone, duo that he's, I don't really know much about Matt Stone as a person. I mean, he said on that 6 Days to Air interview, he's like, Trey and Matt are the band. I'm just, I play. He's like, I play bass in the band, and it's like, do I really want to go direct movie? I don't know. I don't know what I do about it. John Lasseter left his animation job at Disney to work where? Lucasfilm Computer Graphics Group, DreamWorks, SKG, Apple Inc., Pixar. Yes, Kitty has some thoughts and opinions on this as well. What do you mean you left Disney? They own Disney. He's owner of the world. Okay. So this is me first, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna say Lucasfilm.
I'm gonna go with that as well, sir.
Now, do you know that, or are you just going along? It is Lucasfilm.
Yes, it is. Well, I mean, it sounded right, so I was going with that. I mean, you wouldn't go to. I don't think you're not leaving. It wouldn't be Pixar, I don't
Well,
think.
the documentary I saw, he went to Lucasfilm to go to the computer generation, generative imaging and stuff, and then they wanted to launch Pixar, but they had to sell the idea to Steve Jobs, because George Lucas couldn't really finance it himself. So,
well, have you even heard of somebody that's left just like the traditional Disney animating to go to Pixar? I mean, I don't think there's ever been anybody, has there?
I'm sure there's people in the departments. There's not like some big rock star, but the point was, he helped found Pixar, so like he couldn't just, I doubt, like he had to have started somewhere and gotten a team together for that. Alright. Which show has two bears named Tim and Ariana? The Cleveland Show, The Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad. And this is yours first, right?
Okay, I'm going to go with The Cleveland Show.
Yeah, The Cleveland Show. And the answer... The Cleveland Show. I like how very nonchalant, matter-of-factly we just said, yeah, it's The Cleveland Show. Doesn't matter. Didn't make that show worth watching, did it?
This is The Cleveland Show.
Did you see that clip in the trailer for The Simpsons Family Guy crossover? Where they're like, why are we in the same plane? It's like, oh, we can't fly together. It's like, they try to let him fly, and look what happened. It's Cleveland's plane bombing out. No. Okay.
That's funny.
One of these voice actors, Trey Parker, is a force to be reckoned with. In what combat skill does he hold a black belt? Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Taekwondo, Karate. And this is my answer, huh?
Yep. What did he kick butt with in Orgasmo? What style was that, Ben?
What style? Well, he didn't have... I don't remember his style. I do remember Chota Boy's style was hamster style.
Yeah. That's not the style. Come on, man.
Well, that was kind of the point. I'm gonna say Jiu-Jitsu? I don't know.
That was my first guess, so I think I'll stick with that. Or actually, no, I'll go with I'll just stick with that. Screw it.
Alright. And the answer, Ian.
Not that it matters, but it was
Taekwondo! Not like I could tell you
What?
any of the differences between any of those. Oh, well.
Well, you won, Ben. You kicked my ass from
15 points, and I got 9.
Alright.
Damn you, Ben.
Ben is the winner. No. Why?
Yes! Yes! I have won.
You're such a cheater, even though I made this game.
Today, I feel like the luckiest man in the world. I'd like to thank me for winning the game. Yes, I am. Oh, no. Okay. Well, I believe we've had a good show, Ian, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was an interesting show.
We were on our
to say
game
the
tonight.
least.
We were on our game tonight. I brought down the thunder and the lightning.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I mean, usually I don't do that bad. Usually lately I've been like a point or two. A couple of them
We were kind of
even
close
one,
most of the weeks, but man, tonight I was just swinging left and right. Pow, pow, pow. Kind of know that one. Guessing. Oh, I got it. So it was a lucky draw there. That's all I'm gonna say, man. Next time, you and I, you'll meet me back at the ring.
And Doug.
Yeah, well,
Hopefully.
Hopefully if Doug comes in, we'll see which one of us will be the champion. I might have to tag team with somebody, and we'll just file into the ropes. I don't know. Sporting terms, I don't know. Well, anyway, folks, I think that's about a good enough time to wrap it up. So, you got any last words you want to close the show on, Ian?
No, sir.
All right then. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you on the other side.
Peace.
find out more, visit NoRightsProductions.com. Follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NoRights. And hey, why don't you check out my Tumblr at NoRights.tumblr.com.